Social Animal was $99. It's now completely free. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy of it, simply visit callmecare.com/social. But for now, please enjoy this video.
Think for a second about the last time that you bought the following items: a pack of gum at the supermarket, some shoes from Amazon, a new appliance for your kitchen, a car, and a house. Even though the psychology of buying is exactly the same for everything we buy, I'm sure those buying experiences were very different for each item for you. At a guess, for the gum, you just picked it up on a whim when you were checking out at the supermarket. For the shoes, you probably logged onto Amazon, read some reviews, looked at a 360 view of the shoes, and then bought. For the appliance, you probably thought carefully about what you wanted to buy, looked at a lot of different options online and in person, then spoke to a salesperson to answer any questions that you had, and then you bought. For the car, you probably thought for weeks or months about what it is you wanted to buy. You visited multiple dealerships in person, different brands, different models, went for a lot of different test drives, went away to think, and then eventually bought. And for the house, months of research online, speaking to numerous agents, doing tons of different visits, tons more thinking, putting in an offer, going through all that due diligence with things like inspections, and eventually, after a long time, you close the sale. Even if you haven't bought those exact items, you've probably purchased something similar, or you can easily imagine going through the same process were you to buy an item on that scale. And this begs the question, why are these experiences so different? What makes one buying environment or sales process good for one product, but not for another? And to answer that question, let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the underlying psychology, because understanding that can have some big implications for you when it comes to selling coaching products and services online. Fundamentally, every buying decision comes down to the simple ratio of perceived value relative to cost. Value is our subjective perception of how much a thing will satisfy our wants or needs and improve our well-being. The more we value something, the more of our limited resources, primarily money, we're going to give up to get it, and vice versa. Cost is exactly what it sounds like, how much we have to give up to get the thing. And again, this can come in many forms, but we're primarily talking about money. When we think about buying, we're running the calculation in our head. How much benefit or enhancement in my well-being am I going to get from this thing? And how much is it going to cost me? Putting aside the value part of that equation for today, the higher the cost of buying is, the more a buying decision is going to eat into our limited resources, and that means the bigger the risk is. For this reason, we need more time to decide, and we seek more information and assurance that the decision we're about to make is the right one, the higher the cost is. So let's go back to our examples from the very beginning. The gum, it costs almost nothing to anybody. There's no thought required. It's a very easy purchase to make. For the shoes, it's maybe a day's wages for most people. Not a disaster if it works out to be a dumb purchase, but it's going to be annoying if you get it wrong. For the appliance, it's maybe a week's wages. If you get it wrong, you're going to be living with that problem every time you use that appliance for years to come, and it's probably going to be expensive enough that most people are not going to go through the hassle of replacing it if they do decide that they made a bad buying decision. For the car, it's probably a year's wages. You're going to spend thousands of hours in this thing, and once you sign on the dotted line, you're locked in, or you're going to have to break the bank to get out of it. So it's a very consequential purchase. And with a house at present, that's close to a decade's wages. It's probably the most important financial decision you're ever going to make, with the exception of getting married. And when you buy that house, you're on the hook for 30 years, and you literally have to live there and spend thousands of hours of your life living with the consequences of your buying behavior. And now let's think about the setting that we bought these items in and how available the information was at that time. The gum. No information given, but then also no information needed. For the shoes, we have useful but incomplete information. You can't try them on, you can't feel them, you can't hold them, but you can rely on your eyes and you can rely on the testimony and the experience of other people to inform your decision. For the appliance, we have useful and slightly more complete information. Obviously, we can't go into a store and use the appliance, but we can ask any question we like of the salesperson according to what's important to us, what our concerns are, and so on. For the car, we basically have a condensed experience of owning it, namely a test drive. There are, of course, things missing from the everyday ownership experience that won't be included in a test drive, but you're going to have a pretty good idea of what it's like to be an owner of that car when you do the test drive. And you can also ask any question you like of the salesperson. You can pay for an inspection, you can receive warranties and other consumer protections to put you at ease before signing on the dotted line. And with the house, you're literally paying somebody else to act as your agent and to not mess up the buying process. They physically take you to every house that you're considering buying. And even then, once you've put in an offer, you're going to pay $1,000 plus to inspect every inch of that house. Demand things get fixed before you close the deal. You get title insurance, and you basically get to pull out every stop you can to protect yourself from the downsides of making a bad decision. So 2 clear trends have emerged here. One is that the more expensive something is, the more time, which is synonymous with information, people are going to need to make a buying decision. The second is that the more expensive something is, or the higher the cost is, the more face-to-face, interpersonal communication is required. Ask yourself, do you know anyone who would buy a house online the way that most of us buy a pair of shoes? Probably not. But don't you think that realtors would be selling them that way if they could? Of course they would, because they would save so much time and money, and life would be much simpler for them, and they'd probably be able to sell a lot more houses per year. But for whatever reason, when it comes to more expensive purchases, people are much more trusting of face-to-face interactions and two-way conversations where they're dealing with a real human. So what are the implications of this for you as a coach selling online? Well, to state the obvious, the more expensive the package you're selling is, the longer your sales presentation is going to have to be, and the more those prospective customers are going to want to talk to you or another real human being before they pull the trigger to buy. For example, I know of a few coaches selling several $1,000s of coaching packages upfront, and not one of them is doing it with anything other than a Zoom call or an in-person presentation. Even then, they're usually pre-selling clients with a sales page before they book the call, and most of them are warming up their clients with emails for a landing page ahead of the call. So a lot of time and persuasion is going into that buying decision. Below this, I know of a lot of coaches who sell high-ticket one-to-one online coaching who are charging about a few $100s per month per client. In this instance, coaches are experiencing success with slightly shorter sales cycles. So the sales pages are shorter, the sales calls don't take as long, there's not as much persuading or warming up needed compared to those really big ticket purchases that we just talked about. And importantly, some of these coaches don't even sell via Zoom or live sales calls. They might just rely on a video sales letter or selling via DM or voice notes only to get their customers over the line. And then below this, a lot of coaches are selling lower ticket monthly coaching where it's more of a group environment. And pretty much everyone is selling these packages via sales pages or short video sales letters only. At a push, they're answering DMs and speaking to people individually, but on a very limited basis. For one-off template programs, with very few exceptions, it's almost exclusively sold via sales pages, which probably only take a few minutes to consume. And lastly, for lead magnets or free resources, a picture of what you're offering, a list of bullet points, an opt-in box, that's all it takes to persuade people, and people do opt in. Armed with this information, I think there are a couple of important take-home points for you as an online coach. Firstly, are the methods you're using to sell matching up to the perceived cost and risk of what you're selling? Are you at least matching the competition for offerings of a similar price? Don't be selling on a sales page when your competitors are selling via Zoom calls or face-to-face selling. Here's how I would personally rank the various forms of selling in terms of interpersonality. The top and the highest converting by far is, of course, face-to-face, in-person. Next best is Zoom and other video-based platforms. After that, I would say live audio like phone calls and audio-only Zoom. Below that, I would say recorded audio, i.e. voice notes on, say, WhatsApp or Instagram or any other platform where you're able to send someone a note of your voice. Below that, DM or live chat, where it's still obvious that you're speaking to a real person, although that is becoming less and less easy to tell in the age of AI. A level below that is going to be video sales letters. Below that is written sales pages. And then in my mind, the least persuasive form of communication is going to be email and other text-only based selling. A second thing to think about is if you're just starting out and you aren't doing a lot of business, you're actually at an advantage to your competitors because you're not at capacity yet. That means you're able to offer a higher level of interpersonal communication and dedicate more time to your sales compared to other coaches. So if your competitors are selling via just a sales page for a video sales letter, you can be the coach that sells via Zoom, sends voice notes, and answers every single question that prospective customers have live before they buy. All things being equal, you're much likelier to put prospects at ease, lower their perceived risk before they buy, and increase the likelihood of a sale. You're also going to be giving yourself the chance to work out the kinks with your sales message, find out what works and what doesn't work, and refine that over time. Although they're not as persuasive as live interpersonal communication, the advantage of things like sales letters and video sales letters is that they're incredibly scalable. They can sell for you 24/7 around the clock to an unlimited number of people anywhere in the world. The downside, though, is that it's effectively a one-way conversation. You're not armed with the ability to respond and adapt to the other person that you're communicating with, so that message needs to be a lot more refined before you publish it. And of course, if it doesn't work, you're gonna have to go back to the drawing board, edit it, and put it back up again. It's quite a time-consuming process, in my experience, to write an effective video sales letter. So I recommend that if you're new to online coaching or you're testing out a new product, go with overkill to start. Go with the less scalable, less repeatable, but more interpersonal forms of selling and communication first. Then gradually work your way down the ladder to gain that scale, or until it stops working as you refine that message. So for example, if you can physically get in front of people who are your avatar, sell them in person first. Once you get success with that, or you run out of people that you can physically get in front of, use content to get people on calls, and then sell on Zoom, and then sell via DMs and voice notes, then a VSL, then a sales page, or just an email sequence. And you're just gonna repeat that until you reach that scale and you start to shit gold bricks. So if you've enjoyed this video, please let the algo know by liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. And if you want to see a particular topic discussed on this channel, you can let me know in the comments. Thanks.
Thank you very much for watching that video. Daddy loves subscribers, so click here to subscribe. If you'd like to watch another video, you can do that by clicking here. See you soon.